Welcome to the online series based on Sri Aurobindo's profound vision. Art is a bridge between the human and the divine. We are grateful to Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts IGNCA, New Delhi, and Puducherry Regional Centre for collaborating with us in this series. Our speaker today is Sri Sumit Dey. Sri Sumit Dey currently serves as the Regional Director of the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts Regional Centre in Puducherry. With an academic foundation in social sciences and cultural studies, he has served as an assistant professor at IGNCA since 2019, contributing to various key domains such as cultural informatics, cultural archives, Kalanidhi, Sutra Dhara, and the National Mission on Cultural Mapping. His professional journey also includes tenures at distinguished institutions like All India Radio, the Press Information Bureau, and INTAC. He has played a pivotal role in the Ministry of Culture's National Cultural Audio-Visual Archives project. As co-editor of the IGNCA publication Tribal and Indigenous Languages of India, he has made a significant contribution to the preservation of India's cultural heritage.
Om. Namaskar. It gives me immense pleasure and I feel honored to have been invited to give this special talk on this series which is called Art as a Bridge Between the Human and the Divine. Today I'll be talking about the role of music in reaching to the divine. Music is a spontaneous expression of the human mind, and it is a means to reach the divine. From the time of the Sama Vedas, we see how Nada or the sound or Dhvani has been considered to be an important tool to express one's devotion and one's emotion equally. It is in this context that once Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore wrote a song which says that you are standing on the other side of my song, whereas my music, my notes reach you, I can't reach you. This has a deep philosophical meaning. It is not just limited to the idea of a poet singing a song. It can be a means to understanding how even a rishi or a seer or a devotee is trying to reach out to God, and through the music it is being possible. The human body, the human existence, this worldly existence necessarily do not allow us to see the divine or to reach the divine as a matter of easiness. Rather, it's our prayers, it is our chanting, it is our songs, it is our music which has the quality to transcend this normal, everyday, day-to-day existence and reach out to the divine through the means of music. So, music is that sentiment, that expression of the human mind which is beyond time and place, and this has been underlined by various texts, various musical masters and saints and philosophers alike. To understand this phenomenon, we'll take up a few examples from the Shastras as well as from the real life, which will make us understand how music is the best means to reach God or the divine, in whichever way we want to refer to the divinity. Let us first take the point of music as a means of art, as an artistic expression. There are many texts such as the Sangeet Ratnakar and Vishnu Dharmottar Puran, and there are many more which address this question of music as art. And when we look at Sangeet, so it is something that has both the singing aspect, the performing art aspect, in the sense of performing music and performing dance. Only then it becomes Sangeet. Music in the Western sense of the term is different than what we understand as Sangeet. And this connectivity, this connection, these linkages between different aspects of artistic expression of the human mind, a key text plays a very important role, which is the Vishnu Dharmottar Puran. The Vishnu Dharmottar Puran underlines that how painting and music and dance and sculptures, they're all part of the same lived experience and the same expression which leads one to live a life which has the four aspects, the four Purusharthas, Dharma, Kama, Artha, Moksha. So it talks about, in a way, the Prapti Yoga. That is, if one practices these forms of arts, and especially music and dance, one has the Prapti of Moksha, of liberation. In this context, I would like to mention one incident that one reads in the Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran. There is a section of the Rasa Panchadhyayi where Lord Krishna plays out his flute and all the gopis, they run and they rush from their homes, leaving aside their chores, leaving aside their family to meet Bhagavan Sri Krishna. It says that Sri Krishna plays the flute in a different tone, a note that was not struck by him throughout his other leelas. He plays the flute in such a manner that this music attracts the minds of the gopis. And the gopis leave aside everything. Some of them couldn't complete their makeup, some of them couldn't complete their homely chores, some of them couldn't complete the work that were doing in the presence of their elders. They just rushed. And it is always said that this music was so attractive for the gopis that they could not resist it. It is like they were compelled to come out of their homes and meet Sri Krishna. What does this mean? This actually means that the music, the divine nada, that has a power to transcend one's mortal existence and mortal atmosphere. Some of the gopis who were unable to go and respond to the tune, they indulged in meditative silence. And in that meditative silence, they reached Sri Krishna mentally, or rather on a spiritual plane. This is not just a story, this is not just a tale, this is more than that. This means that if one practices music, if one practices a sadhana of music, one can reach the divine. Talking about Sri Krishna and the Vrindavan, let us not forget our bhakti saints. Let us not forget Sant Haridas, who was a devout devotee of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. And his only way to connect to the Lord was to sing. And such was the power of his singing that even birds would come stand still. The nature would respond to that music. Rains would come. The sun will rise. And a lot of miracles would take place. Even the stones would melt. And when we talk about Sant Haridas and say that, his music had that power where stones would melt, one should refer again to the Bhagavad Puran, in which Sri Krishna plays the flute, and that also had the quality of melting the stone. Likewise, that was the divine's response to the devotees, and likewise, when we look at Sant Haridas's case, it is the other way round. It is the devotee's power of music which compels the God to incarnate, to be present in front of him. And such was the power of Sant Haridas that even the emperor of that time, he would also arrive at Vrindavan and would like him to sing in front of him. He would refuse. Sant Haridas would say that I sing only for the Lord. So that gives him a kind of an identity that I am a devotee and that is my devotion, and music is my devotional practice, it is my worship. In a similar fashion, when we move on from Sant Haridas, who was also the master of Miya Tansen, who actually is considered the father of Indian Hindustani classical music, now we move to the south. Now we move to the Thevaram, the songs of Shiva. The Thevarams actually talk about the glory of Lord Shiva, and it comes directly out of heart and reaches the Lord. Certain tal and certain musical compositions, certain aspects of the Carnatic music is highlighted through the Thevarams. As we see that the devotees of Lord Shiva in the south, they sing the Thevarams, they try to link themselves with Shiva through their music. And it is both the words and the notes that are used and the music that is sung. We also see such examples in other parts of this entire subcontinent and especially Bharatvarsh when we hear about Nada Yoga. From the Thevarams, let us move to the east. Let us move to the Nama Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also some other devotees of Sri Krishna, Srimanta Shankar Dev, Srimanta Madhav Dev, and many other singers in the eastern part of the country have also done a lot of musical sadhana. Their music transcended the mere form of art and became a means of worshipping the Lord. For instance, look at the Nama Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He, one of the key figures of the Bhakti movement, understood that the way to connect to God and also to reach to the masses, it is music. That works as a very effective tool. So he began the question of Sankirtan and he discussed this with his devotees, and then they started the Nama Sankirtan. And the Nama Sankirtan is something that everyone to this date practices in the evening. Irrespective of their lineages of the Vaishnava order or not, they sing this as a part of their daily ritual. And that has a power. This has been narrated very well in some of the records of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. And later, when we look at the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, we also see some references of the music being sung. Talking of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he always used to believe that music and musical genius is a God-gifted quality, and those who can sing well can reach the divine very easily, and the divine music has the quality of meditation. Just to digress a little, when Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans went to Varanasi for pilgrimage, he was very much moved by the music of the veena, and he requested the sponsor of this pilgrimage to take him to a veena vadak, and accordingly a veena vadak was identified, and his name was Mr. Mahesh, if I'm not mistaken, and every day he would play the veena, and this will take Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans to a different plane altogether, different divine plane. The music will bring a sense of ecstasy on his face, a joy which is not of this world. In fact, talking about music, Sangeet, Gita, look at our text's name, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Song of the God. So, Geet is something that is the essence of the Indian sentiment and the Indian psyche, as it were. Going back to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srimanta Shankardev and Srimanta Madhavdev, even Srimanta Shankardev started the Satras. Satras were a community worship place where the main thread which binds the people is music. And the Satra music would revolve around the glories of Sri Hari, the glories of Sri Krishna, glories of Sri Rama, and they will get together, they will sing together with a lot of music, a lot of jhanj, manjira and other instruments, and of course mridangam, which is the tal instrument, to evoke the divine sense coming out of their heart, coming out of their devotion. Likewise, from the east, if we move to the west, we would see the tradition of the Avanga, which is sung in reverence, in love for Vittal, a form of Sri Vishnu, Sri Krishna. Sant Tukaram's only way of connecting to Lord Vittal, and in a personal, as if it was a personal connect between the God and the devotee, Sant Tukaram would sing the name of Vittal. Sometimes he will get into a trance by just uttering the name of Vittal, 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 something like this. And the other is Abhang, and one looks at various saints, Sant Tukaram, Sant Eknath, and so on and so forth. And it was not limited only to men, it was also extended to other devotees like Soirabai, like Sakhubai, like others who have said very profound philosophical things through their abhangs, through their little songs. And sometimes it is heard that Janabai and others, they would just do their household chores, and as a means of connecting to God within that household chores, within that period of time, they would sing songs. And even to this date, some of these practices are very much alive. We can see that. It is a tangible, intangibly tangible heritage. We don't see the saints anymore through our naked eyes, but we can still access their music, their songs, and thus music played a role in breaking their monotony of the material world and also to connect with the divine simultaneously while the household work or the daily work, karma yoga, is taking place. So in a way it suggests there is a connection between karma and bhakti. Coming back to Sant Tukaram and Sant Namdev, for that matter, their everyday lives, their pains, their happiness, their joys, they have been expressed so well through the abhangs. And the abhangs are not just poetry, it's music. It has an eminent musical quality within it. And this is the beauty of the Bhakti Parampara, the Bhakti movement, where it connected the people through music and it actually transcended the geographical boundaries. Nowadays, we understand life as segmented as in different parts. But when we look at this parampara and this dharmic practices, we see that music was so much part of the divine activity as well as the household chores. While singing a devotional song, while doing the household chores, connects one to the divine very easily. It bridges the gap between the sacred and profane, if we have to go by that distinction. Though this distinction is very superficial, it doesn't work like that. Everything is sacred, everything is divine when it comes to devotion. Every karma becomes a karma for the gods, for the divinity. I'll interchangeably be using the word God and divinity, but it can be anything. You name the Supreme Being, you call him the Lord, you call him Krishna, you call him Shiva, it remains the same in essence. So yes, we were talking about the abhangs. So these abhangs actually show the desperation of the devotees to reach Pandharpur and have a darshan of Vitthal. In one of the abhangs, Sant Tukaram talks about the Shikhar darshan of the temple. That makes him so happy. In other songs, when Sant Namdev is asked that who are you, where are you from, he says that my everything is Vitthal. And he sings Tirtha Vitthal Kshetra Vitthal. So this is one of the examples. Now, if we move up, we go to the land of Rajasthan. We will see how Mirabai, an ardent devotee of Sri Krishna, actually spends her entire life in the devotion of Sri Krishna. And what we know about Meera is through her songs, through her music. Talking about the devotion, we know that there are 8 bondages which actually bar human being to reach the divine, which includes kul, shil, man, laj, sharam, and things like that. Mirabai was able to transcend all this only through her music, through her sangeet. That's why she was able to think about a line which says, Pag khungru baad mira nache re. A lot of troubles within the material life, material existence bothered her, but she was not bothered. She kept on singing. She kept on singing the name of the Lord. And so much so that she didn't pay attention to the fact that she was offered poison. She drank that in divine ecstasy while singing the name of the Lord. So that's the power of music. That's the power of music as a means of devotion, a means of prayer. Music as a means of devotion is perhaps universal, but when we talk about music in India as an art and as a means to bridge the gap between the human and the divine, we see an array of examples. So from Mirabai, if we move again to the south, we will see the temple music. We will see the tradition of Suprabhatam, when you actually wake up the divine through music. The Suprabhatam is that genre of music which is usually sung, and it is accompanied by other kinds of music, the Nadaswaram for example. So every time a temple service begins, it begins with Nadaswaram, And when it resumes in different parts of the day, when the Lord or the goddess wakes up, it is again done musically. And this is not limited to South India. Talking about Nadaswaram, one is reminded of a musical instrument which is Shehnai. And Shehnai takes us to Varanasi. And talking about Varanasi, we cannot forget Bharat Ratna Sri Ustad Bismillah Khan Sahab, whose music had that quality unless and until he would play the music at the Lord Vishwanath temple and other Balaji temple, the city will not wake up, the gods will not wake up, as it were. So the tradition of temple music has its own history. I think it dates back to time immemorial. And we earlier mentioned about Tevaram. I think during the Chola period of history, the Tevaram, singing of the Tevaram at different temples, including the Bredeshwara temple, became a customary system. And talking about temple tradition and music, besides the south and Varanasi, one place we must mention is Odisha, in the eastern part of India again. In Odisha, we see that there is a tradition of singing the Geet Govind, a divine poetry talking about the Leelas of Sri Krishna, the pastime, divine pastimes of Sri Krishna. Poet Jayadev penned this poetry, this poem of the Geet Govinda in the 12th century. Since then, it became part of the repertoire of the temple music. It is not only sung in the temple, it used to be performed by the Devadasis in front of Lord Jagannath. In the 12th century, poet Jayadev wrote about this very philosophical text under the garb of a love story, where Krishna and Radha, they have different divine pastimes in Vrindavan. And when we see the Geet Govind, we see that it actually translated, it's such a text which transcended the boundaries of time and place. It went to the north and became a part of the temple Kathaks. The singing dancers who would play certain music and dance and offer devotion through different kathas from the Purans and others texts. So Geet Govind went to them, and mind you, the name Geet Govind, it again mentions about Geet or music. And if one looks at the text, available text of the Geet Govind, one would see that there are certain sections which are particularly sung in a particular rag, as mentioned by the poet. Since then, Geet Govind has been sung and performed in various other parts of India as well. If one goes to the Guruvayur temple of Kerala, one would see that there is a ritualistic singing of the Geet Govind. And this music, this Geet Govind, that also inspired many Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi dancers as well, who also perform to the music of the Geet Govind. And then the Geet Govind takes us to far northeast, Ishanya Bharat, where in Manipur we see that the same repertoire of Geet Govind has been adopted by the Vaishnav singers. And when we talk about music in the divine context, and when we talk about music in the earlier times, in the medieval period of time, one has to understand that divine music is something that is part of the entertainment also. Those days there was no hard and fast segregation between entertainment and devotion. So the temples and the sacred spaces identified by different communities of devotees used to be filled with this kind of music as evening fell, as night came, and on certain occasions like Janmashtami, like Shivaratri, special musical performances will be taking place in those temple spaces or sacred spaces which a community has designated in a particular way. Now, if we look at other forms of the divine music in the medieval period itself, we have to go to Bengal. In Bengal, spiritual seekers and sadhaks like Ramprasad Sen and Kamalakant, they wrote some songs in their devotion for goddess Kali. They see Shyama, that is one form of the goddess Mahakali, worshipped in Bengal and eastern part of India. They would sing them as their little daughter, they will sing them as their mother, and they would also write different songs as offerings to the mother goddess. Ramprasad Sen was so excellent in expressing his thoughts in his music, in his songs, that even a later sadhak and later Mahapurush, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans, said that Ramprasad reached the divine only through his music. By practicing his way of music, he was able to attain the grace of the goddess. And it is believed, even in legends it is said that he used to sing so well that the goddess will take disguise and come and listen to his music. There is one such hearsay, one such legend in which he apparently got an invitation from goddess Annapurna of Kashi that I am so moved by your song, O Ramprasad, my dear devotee, that I wish you to come to Varanasi and sing these songs for me. Ramprasad Sen and Kamalakanta Bhattacharya, they have simplified the tantric practices, which may sound very complex otherwise, but they simplified it through their songs. And they use certain metaphors of everyday life that it is very difficult not to understand what they are trying to say. In one of the songs, for instance, Ramprasad Sen talks to his mind and says that, "Oh my mind, you have not learnt agriculture. Wish you learnt a little bit of agriculture, a lot of crops would have been harvested." One might feel that he is talking merely about, the field and the crops, but he is mentioning one word, Manav Jameen, which is this human life, this human existence as the field. And he is conveying this deep philosophy, this deep message through his easy music, which people can relate to. And Ramprasadi's songs are such powerful tools of devotion that even to this date, whenever the Kali Puja happens, whenever anything to do with the Divine Mother, any event to do with the Divine Mother takes place, these events become incomplete without the singing of Ramprasad or Kamalakanta's song. And this genre of Sangeet, Shyama Sangeet, which is dedicated to the Mother Goddess, has flourished over the years. Even nowadays, a lot of senior artists and a lot of composers write Shyama Sangeet or the music that is the connection between the Divine Mother and the devotee as the child. In Bengal, apart from the Vaishnav and the Shakta tradition, one would see the growth, and also the blossoming of something called the baul or the sahajya. The bauls are the minstrels who would sing the divine name, sometimes the name of Hari, sometimes the name of their Guru, sometimes the name of Sai, which is again the divine master. And this is not just music, this is a way of life. If one looks at the Baul Sahajya lifestyle, one would understand that music is not just performance, it is not just entertainment, it is far more than that. It is a way of life. It combines, the Baul path combines elements from various streams of devotion. Sometimes it is Sahajya, early Sahajya Buddhist way of life. Sometimes it is the Vaishnav way of life. Sometimes the Mahajan or the Padakartas. The Mahajans are the Baul sadhaks who express themselves through their music. They are called Mahajani Pad. So they include a lot of such poet performers who are essentially sadhaks. So Baul Gan or Baul Sangeet is not just a mere genre of music. It is far more than that. If one does the sadhana, only then one can understand what the Bauls are trying to say. They are talking about the body, and sometimes they allude the body to a musical instrument. Here I digress a little and take ourselves back to the Bhagavad story. When we think about the Bansuri, the flute of Lord Krishna, what is it made of? It is made of bamboo, and interestingly it is hollow. It is when the nada or the music is played through its hollow, it amplifies that music of the mind, of the heart, and expresses it to this instrument. So, even in the Baul path, we will see that there are certain references of the human body as a musical instrument. And what exactly is conveyed through this idea? That unless and until you can become a medium of the divine, you will not be of any use. So it is easy to compare the body, human body, with a musical instrument. A musical instrument is always being played by a musician. Only then it resonates, it makes a divine sound and a divine music. So the Bauls talk about this body as a musical instrument in some of their songs, while also talking about various deep, dark areas of the Deha Tattva and the philosophy of Advait in a different way. In a way, again, giving examples from everyday life and everyday existence, sometimes certain philosophies, certain tattvas are quoted within various riddles and various everyday life incidences. Various life incidents. So that is the beauty of the Baul music, and the Baul have actually inspired a lot of other later musicians, poets, composers, and a lot of sadhaks that way. So music as a means of devotion is not limited only to the Baul, to the Shakta, the Vaishnav or the Shaiva Parampara. Music is again an important part, an important tool of reaching out to the God in other faiths as well. For instance, if we look at the Sufi music, there is a concept of Sufi Sama, where the Sufi singers will sing the divine name of the Lord and then they would transcend the time and space and go into a trance. And this is the way of connecting with the divine. The Swarg has a very important place here. The way the Pukar, the way God is called out, that has the power of bringing the God inside the devotee's heart. So that is an important area in which a Sufi devotee, Amir Khusro, plays a very important role. He would sing in different occasions, in different seasons, about his Lord, about his Murshid, which is Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia. The only way to see the history and the presence of Sufism is through the music. Even now, if one goes to different dargahs, one will see how the traditional Sufi songs are being sung in a group, and how musically the pukar and the group singing is being done. So that is the only tangible evidence of the Sufi way of life and the Sufi path. From Sufism, if we go to the idea of Sikhism, we will see that Guru Granth Sahib or the Shabad Kirtan is an important part of their dharmic practices, everyday practices. So what we hear are the words and the music. And like many other Mahapurushes, we will see that Guru Nanak and the other gurus have mentioned certain rag to which a particular Shabad has to be sung. So Shabad Kirtan also has its own history, and it is the divine holy name of the Lord that they do. This is part of the Simran activity, that is to remember the divine through various songs and through chanting of the name musically. That has also created its own tradition, its own way of singing. Shabad Kirtan also holds a lot of meaning when we look at the tradition of devotion in this subcontinent. If one visits different gurudwaras across the subcontinent, one would see that all the time, and especially in special seasons like Vasant, Varsha Ritu, certain particular rag based Shabad Kirtans are sung. It is as if to remember, as if to remind the devotees that come what may, come what season, you have to connect yourself to the divine through this daily music. And this music is not just entertainment, like I said. This music has a deep philosophical significance. For example, I remember this one Shabad Kirtan which is in Raga Shri, which is an afternoon evening rag, in which it is being said, the thought is being expressed that, O Lord, you are the one who is creating these colors in which we all are colored, in which all of us and our existence is drenched. The power of this Shabad Kirtan can be understood from one story from the life of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore went to the hills through Punjab with his father, and he was so moved by the music, the Shabad Kirtan, that in the later part, when he became a composer, when he wrote poetry and music, he took inspiration from the Shabad Kirtan and expressed his devotion through the Shabad Kirtan. So we can see that in whatever form, in whatever way, in whatever faith we address to the divine, music has always played a very, very important role. If we look at the Buddhist chanting in different monasteries, that also has a particular tune. It is sung in a particular way, it is chanted in a particular way, and it is very musical in nature. Talking about traditional Buddhist chanting and reading out from the scriptures, there might not be a particular way in which the hymns are sung, but hymns are chanted in a musical manner, in a rhythmic way. So, this kind of an understanding of the music, the voice as the call to reach out to the divinity, and the tala, the rhythm, as the connection with the time, the passing of time. So, passing of time and the call onto the God and expressing deep philosophical thought. This has been a part of the shared devotional activities of different religious communities, not only within different sects of Hinduism, but in other religions as well. Now, if we come to the modern times, we would see two stalwarts in the field of music, spirituality, and culture have imbibed the essence of India's musical legacy and the belief that music is the best means to reach out to God, who have sort of assimilated the various traditions I just mentioned during this talk. They assimilated all these ideas and created music which is still acclaimed in the galaxy. Two important figures, stalwarts, who imbibed the tradition of music, devotional music, which I spoke about during this talk, into their own creative expression and made them immortal and made them universally accepted. I am talking about two contemporary sadhaks, two contemporary music aficionado and music composers, namely Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore and Swami Vivekananda. Music played a very important role in the psyche of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore since his childhood, because he grew up in the tradition of both classical and folk music. He learned music from gurus and he was inspired by various other traditions of music available at that point of time. The classical, even the church songs and the Brahmo Samaj songs. So Rabindranath Tagore, along with his brothers, contributed to a lot in the development of what is called the Brahmo music. The Brahmo monotheism delved so deep in the thought of God that some of the finest poets, including Trailakyanath Sanyal, Rabindranath Tagore himself, Jatirindranath Tagore, Satyendranath Tagore, Dwijendranath Tagore, the brothers of Rabindranath Tagore, they also wrote a lot of devotional songs which are known as the Brahma Sangeet. Even if one looks at the entire pantheon of the oeuvre of Rabindranath Tagore's work, his music has been categorized in various ways, but these categorizations are not sacrosanct. For example, Puja, Prem, Prakriti, Vichitra, Brahma Sangeet, things like that. But he was one of the finest examples of expressing the supra mind through his music. Rabindranath Tagore's Puja music, Puja songs, and the song of love, Prem song, sometimes they are mixed up and one cannot decide which one is Puja and which one is Prema, because love and devotion, they all come together when it comes to divine music. Rabindranath Tagore's contribution in devotion music is very important when we understand music as an art and a bridge between the human and the divine. He was inspired by so many expressions, musical expressions, be it the baul, be it the songs of Muthuswami Dikshitar, be it the Shabad Kirtan, be it the classical music, and even he set to tune a lot of Upanishadic and Vedic mantras to be sung in the Brahma Samaj. So the Brahma Samaj contributed again to the modern understanding of music as a divine means and a means to reach the psyche of the audience. And the Brahma Sangeet was so powerful. The way they sang the glory of the Nirgun Parabrahma, that even Mahapurush like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa was so moved. He used to go to different Brahmo events, and we have read about various records like the Sri Ramakrishna Vachanamrit and the Leela Prasang actually shows us that how the Brahmo music, the Brahmo Upasana Sangeet would transport Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa from the land of mundane existence to the divine plane. So Brahmo music had a very powerful impact upon the stalwarts and the Mahapurush like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. The Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga and Sri Ramakrishna Vachanamrit actually record how the singing of the Brahmo music would transport him from the mundane everyday existence to the divine plane. There are many such instances if one reads the Vachanamrit, that he is shedding the tears of joy, he is in Bhav Samadhi by listening to the music of Sri Bhav Samadhi, by listening to the music of the Brahmo Samaj. In the Brahmo Samaj, another very finest composer and artist blossomed and grew, who was also musically very much trained. I am talking about Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda and Rabindranath Tagore, they were contemporary, and they would both go to the Brahmo Sabha. Swami Vivekananda, before becoming a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, was a regular in the Brahmo Samaj, and he learned a lot of this Brahmo music. And one sees that the musical genius of Swami Vivekananda comes from his understanding deep knowledge of the Western classical music and the Indian classical music as well, which was shaped to a great extent by the Brahmo Samaj music. The compositions like Amba Stotra, or for that matter, the composition that he created for his Guru Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, actually shows the deep understanding of the Western and Indian classical music that he had throughout his life. Swami Vivekananda's music actually exemplifies the traditional Western and the Eastern way of singing and expressing one's mind through music. Not only through the idea of the tune, the ragas, but also his understanding of the octave, his understanding of the chorus, his understanding of different rhythmic cycle of different tals. That shows the legacy that he has carried forward. And his music has the quality of transporting oneself from the mere presence to the divine and meditative plane. So that's the beauty of Sri Swami Vivekananda and Rabindranath Tagore's music. And certain songs of Rabindranath Tagore used to be sung by Swami Vivekananda. Like You Are the Pole Star of My Life, Tomarei Koriachi Jiboner Dhruvodhara in Bangla. This song, written by Rabindranath Tagore, was sung by Swami Vivekananda, and it moved Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa beyond imagination. When we talk about the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo, who comes within the dhara, within the legacy of the spiritual legacy of Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans, we see that he talks about integral yoga. And the integral yoga, in a way, means that you have to connect various dots of your life, where art also plays a very, very important role, and as does music. To talk about music here, we'll take help of the mother. The mother used to say that the best way of devotion, the best way of connecting to divine is the music. And music is the highest expression of the human, which has the power of reaching to the divine. The mother loved playing different music, and as we all are aware that even to this date, her music is played in different organizations, and including the ashram and the Aurobindo Society and other places. The music is played as a means to meditate, as a tool of meditation, and it has the quality of reaching out to the silence. If I may take the liberty of quoting the mother, not in toto, but what I have understood while reading her and while understanding her different talks. If I am not mistaken, in 1963, the mother talks about the quality of silence that music produces. Music doesn't produce noise. And when music reaches the quality of silence in a divine meditative plane, it becomes a powerful tool to reach the level of the supramind and to reach out to God. Now, from this, I would bring your attention to some of the Sangeet sadhaks, some of the well-known musicians who have been acclaimed not only at home but abroad, which includes Bharat Ratnas like M.S. Subbulakshmi, Lata Mangeshkar, Pandit Bhimsen Joshi, Ustad Bismillah Khan. When we look at their accounts, for example, Bharat Ratna Lata Mangeshkar says that when I sing something devotional, when I sing a prayer song, when I sing a bhajan, I cease to exist as this human existence. I become a prayer. Likewise, if one looks at the music of M.S. Subbulakshmi, one would see that she would transcend the barrier of time and space, and she would transport herself and the audience to the divine plane through her music of Tyagaraja, of Muthuswami Dikshwitar, of Purandar Das, and so on and so forth. Music has the quality of even pacifying the not so divine mind and transport the divine, the non-divine self to the divine self, is an example that we find in the story of. Music has the quality of transporting the non-divine to the divine plane, has been exemplified by this one incident in the life of Pandit Bhimsen Joshi. It has become like a legend that while he was passing through the jungles, the robbers actually stops him, and he is able to transform them through his music, through his famous bhajan, Jo Bhaje Hari Ko Sada. So that is one thing. And the other example is of Ustad Bismillah Khan. Bismillah Khan Sahab used to talk about how one moment when the true swar is struck by an artist, it is one moment of divine revelation. And when we look at the ragas and the raginis, we read in the Purans and various other Indian texts that the ragas, raginis have some divine connection. Name of the ragas are like Bhairavi, the one who worships Bhairav, the Shiva. Ahir Bhairav, that is the upasana of Bhairav by the cow maidens. That is why it is called Ahir Bhairav. Likewise, there are many other rags and raginis which have been alluded to different forms of divinity. For example, Sri, Saraswati. These names themselves bear testimony to the fact that music and the ragas are always considered divine. So, in fine, we would say that music is the only way, music is the yoga that has the quality of imbibing everything. All the four yogas, it can present the synthesis of the yoga. The music, the ragas have that innate quality. We have heard about the devotees of Vittal who would do their work and sing the name of the Lord. We have heard about the Sankirtan. So that is, in a way, it is the Karma Yoga through music. Jnana Yoga, when the Nirgun bhajans of Kabir are sung or other Nirguni sadhaks are sung, one understands the true nature of the self through music. Devotion is everywhere, be it in the Baul Path, be it in the Bhakti Path, be it in the Devarams, be it in the Satriya music. Devotion is the key. Bhakti Yoga is always there. And the meditative silence, as mentioned by Sri Aurobindo and the mother, one reaches the Raja Yoga as well. So, in a way, music is the samanvay of all the yogas, and it is a bridge that connects the divine with the human and the human with the divine. As exemplified in the Bhagavad story I narrated in the beginning, and also the call of Meera, the call of Sant Tukaram, where the divine is also compelled to come and appear by the power of the name. I would end this talk with one line from Sant Tulsidas. Again, I'm not quoting, I'm just expressing the essence, in which he says that to do any other form of devotion, it is so easy for me to call out your name and sing your name. And that's why Ramayana, be it in the Valmiki Ramayana or be it in the Tulsidas Ramayana, it is always sung. Singing and music is the only way to reach out to God, and God's name and God divine itself are not different. Only the call, the pukar, the song, the music is the means to connect to the divine in one moment. Thank you.